Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the brand new Nike Lebron 23. So of course this is LeBron James's brand new signature hoop shoe with Nike, and this shoe is freaking expensive. It retails for $210, which is, come on Nike, that's absolutely insane, and that's a $30 price increase from the LeBron 22. The 22s were $180, so I was like, oh, the 22, they decreased the price. That's awesome. Hopefully they keep doing the same thing. And then nope, Nike's like, no, screw you guys, we're gonna make an expensive shoe. And yeah, 210. Are you kidding me, guys? You know, so yeah, this is the Miami Twice colorway, and it is using a combination of blue and pink, which I think looks really nice. And also on the upper we have palm trees, and the palm trees are embroidered onto the upper, which is an amazing touch, you know what I mean? So yeah, this shoe is still available on Nike. You know, the 40K, I tried getting the 40K and it was super limited, I guess. I just couldn't get it. But this shoe, like, there are still a good amount of sizes available on Nike, and also I guess like Foot Locker and stuff like that. So if you guys do want to cop a, try to leave in the free link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the tracciones. And as far as the traction pattern goes, it's a 23. It literally a 2 and a 3. So that's cool, I guess. You know, and we do have some like open spots on the actual outsole as well, which did worry me. Like when I first saw the leaked images of the LeBron 23, I thought, you know, it reminded me of the Curry 6. And you guys remember the whole Curry 6 debacle where it was like the actual outsole peeled off right over here because the glue wasn't strong enough or something. So I wish they would have just made it a one-piece outsole. Like, why did you have to make it open like this? You know what I mean? But with Nike, I feel like it's not going to be a huge issue because I feel like they make good quality shoes, and hopefully the glue is nice and it doesn't happen to me, but that does worry me a little bit, right? And also for the overall pattern, we have like a wavy or like wave bone traction pattern. It's a wavy herringbone pretty much going throughout the entire outsole, and it is like a pretty translucent rubber as well. So how does the traction feel? Overall, it feels pretty dang nice, you know what I mean? Like, it has an overall pretty nice bite. I wouldn't say it's top tier or anything, but it's a solid bite on my wood floor, so I was pretty impressed and I was pretty happy about that. And also, I was walking around all day in this shoe today in my apartment, and it does seem to be picking up a little bit of dust. Look at that, right? And also, I guess this shoe is picking up a little bit more. Hopefully it's coming out on camera, but yeah, it was picking up that dust, and it was affected by dust a little bit. You know what I mean? So hopefully we don't have a repetition of the LeBron 22. You know what I mean? Because the 22 had a really nice bite, like super clean court, amazing traction, but just such a dust magnet, you know? So yeah, hopefully the LeBron 23 doesn't have terrible dust performance, but we'll have to see on that. I'm a little bit worried about it. But right now, it seems a little bit better than that, right? And then as far as the durability goes, durability does not seem good. The rubber is really freaking soft. The grooves are thin. So yeah, I feel like if you're gonna be playing on an outdoor court, it's gonna rip off pretty easily and tear off. So not gonna be the best option for outdoor use. And also, this shoe has a pretty nice loud high pitch squeak. You know, of course, squeak has nothing to do with performance, but if you like to have a nice squeak, this shoe has got you covered. The traction overall does feel pretty nice, and also, if you guys didn't know, this shoe comes with like a, I don't know what this is, like a little pendant thing, right? This is pretty cool. It comes in this little pouch, and also it comes with a little book, and it's kind of like how LeBron joined Nike, and then all his shoes and accomplishments and stuff like that, which I don't really care too much for, but you know, that's pretty cool. So there is a traction there. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, overall it does feel okay, right? So here in the heel, look at this. It's all just plastic, you know what I mean? Plastic and rubber. There's no exposed midsole, which I'm not a huge fan of. I love when shoes, you know, if you guys didn't know, this shoe is using a drop-in midsole, right? And I love it when drop-in midsole shoes have an actual external kind of like midsole, you know what I mean? For example, like the Kobe 8. You know, the Kobe 8, it has an actual midsole, so it doesn't feel clunky, and the overall kind of like outside of the shoe has nice compression, you know? For example, in the Kobe 9, it's all plastic, and because of that, it does feel a little bit clunky. And also, just like here in the LeBron 23, it's all plastic, so it does feel a little bit clunky. We do have a nice kind of like a very little bit of rounding, you know what I mean? It's kind of rounded here in the heel, so that does help the overall kind of like fluidity and motion here in the heel, but overall it's a little bit clunky, but it definitely does help that, you know, your foot is right on top of the actual foam here, and that does feel soft, you know what I mean? But on the outside of the shoe, it does feel a little clunky. There's a nice little clunk there, right? Also here in the forefoot, we do have a nice curved shape, so it's not super curved, however, which kind of sucks, but it's a little bit curved, so it's not terrible or anything. And also overall, we do have a nice bit of flex. Look at this. You know, I thought it was gonna be a lot stiffer, especially because of all this plastic, but I was walking around in the shoe pretty much all day today, you know, just around my apartment. At first it was really stiff, but actually broken just a tiny bit, and now it's actually pretty easy to flex here in the forefoot. So it has a nice bit of flex, and also torsion support is really good though. Torsion support is really good, and also has a nice bit of flex here in the forefoot. It's not super explosive feeling though, you know what I mean? It's not like a very springy feel. It's just more like a little bit flexible. I would say it's a little bit stiffer than, you know, like the Sabrina 3 and stuff like that, Sabrina 2. I would say it's comparable to like the Jaw 3 in terms of like how easy it is to flex, you know, here in the forefoot. So overall, it's a little bit clunky here in the heel, but I do like how you are able to flex here in the forefoot as opposed to something like an older shoe. You guys remember the LeBron 11, right? You can't even freaking flex. Like it is able to flex, but it's really freaking hard and it's really stiff, you know what I mean? Especially with the positive material. You guys remember this? Another reason why I bring this shoe out is because this is the only other shoe in LeBron's entire signature shoe line that has a drop-in midsole, right? So let's take the drop-in midsole out from the LeBron 11 and let's segue into the cushioning setup. So if you guys didn't know, the LeBron 11 was using a Lunarlon drop-in midsole, right? It says Lunarlon right over here with a full-length Zoom bag underneath it, right? So this shoe or this setup is extremely freaking bouncy. So it has a nice bounce, but then it is a little bit muted because of the actual Lunarlon. And in terms of how it feels compared to the actual LeBron 23, the LeBron 23 has a way softer underfoot feel and step and cover, right? So immediately, this is Zoom X, if you guys know. So they're using Zoom X, but I feel like it's dual density, or it'll be a different kind of like foam that they're using for the perimeter of the actual drop-in midsole. So if you guys can see like this blue color, I'm guessing it's a different type of foam, because when I feel it on top, right, the actual white part, the Zoom X foam is really freaking soft, right? And then once I move to the blue part, first of all, it's glued down and it looks like it's different, but also feeling it, the blue part is also a little bit stiffer, you know? But either way, the immediate step and comfort, just like putting the shoe on and then just standing, it's really soft. You can feel the Zoom X, and especially here in the heel, because the heel is pretty high up off the ground and thick. And then here in the forefoot, it's still kind of soft, but it's a little bit stiffer, a little bit more dead feeling, but still you can feel a nice bit of compression, right? So as far as like how the overall core feel is, it's not amazing, you know what I mean? It's comparable to the Jaw 3, but it's a little bit different, right? So here in the forefoot, it's very similar in core feel, right? So it's not amazing for core feel. I would say it's like around average, maybe a little bit worse than average. And then here in the heel, however, the Jaw 3 has better core feel, right? The LeBron 23 is pretty high up off the ground here in the heel, and also there is a pretty high offset, you know what I mean? Like the heel is pretty dang high compared to the forefoot, which I'm not a huge fan of. You know, I like a little bit more flat, you know what I mean? But yeah, the heel again has a crazy amount of compression here in the heel, which does feel nice. And also you do have a whole bunch of like circles, right? And that kind of massages your foot. It feels pretty nice, and also it does have a pretty nice like sticky texture to it, so it does grab your sock, and the lockdown feels really good as well, which I do like. That feels really nice. And also on the bottom of the drop-in, we can see a carbon fiber midfoot shin plate. So that's what's making the shoe like really good for torsion support. Like it doesn't bend at all here in the midfoot, but it is able to bend here in the forefoot, right? And then if you look at the actual like shell of the shoe, you know, without the actual drop-in, look at this. Right, it's just a really, I mean, that's just normal for a shoe that has a drop-in midsole, you know what I mean? So the overall shell is actually quite soft, and for the positive material, there is a nice bit of creasing, which I'm not a huge fan of, but yeah. So the overall core feel, again, not great, but the step and comfort, really nice. Under the cushion, again, super duper soft. And also, I was kind of like jumping around in it, and it had a nice bit of rebound back and bounce, but it was like right underneath my foot. You know what I mean? Again, with the LeBron 11, it's a little bit more muted because you do have the Lunarlon kind of like in between the Zoom bag and your foot, you know? So I do like the overall cushioning setup. However, here in the heel, it does feel clunky, again, because there is no actual midsole. It's not like compressing here, you know, so that, which kind of sucks, but again, your foot is digging into the heel part of the drop-in, which does feel extremely soft and comfortable. So overall, I really like the cushioning setup. You know, again, what I would have done is add a kind of like external midsole like the Kobe 8, but I guess for the overall design they didn't, which I guess is fine, you know, but it does feel a little bit clunky here in the heel. So yeah, the cushioning setup I like so far. And now moving on to the upper. So as far as the upper material goes, I like it. You know what I mean? The quality feels pretty nice. However, it does feel a little bit stiff and a little bit glued down. So they're saying it's an engineered jacquard material, and the overall quality is great. Like again, you can see the palm tree design that they embroidered onto the actual upper, and it's just really cool. You know what I mean? It looks great, and also going around the entire upper. You know, kind of like stitch. I feel like they stitched the actual upper to this material maybe, but you can see the actual kind of like stitching going around the entire upper. So that's really nice quality too, right? But overall, it's a really stiff material. Look at this, like it doesn't give too easily, you know? So when I first got it, I was like, I'm not a huge fan of the upper. It feels very restrictive on foot, right? But then again, I was walking around all day and like I didn't even play in it, you know? And you know, walking around and walking my dogs outside and stuff like that, it got a little bit softer and it feels a little bit better. It's still stiff though. It's still stiff, don't get me wrong, but it did get a little bit softer. So we'll have to see on how it breaks in and stuff like that. And with this kind of like jacquard, I feel like it will break in and get a little bit softer. But again, it's like a knit material that's a little bit backed up with glue, you know? So it has a stiffer feel, which I'm not a huge fan of. I like a softer material, but again, it's not terrible because, you know, right now it did get a little bit softer with just me wearing the shoe and walking around today. And also it doesn't pinch too much right here, but then it does pinch a little bit here on the sides, especially where this kind of like plastic material is as well. So not a huge fan of that, but it's not terrible or anything like that, you know? And then here in the midfoot, it's still like a little bit more on the stiffer side of things as well. And also you can see like a little strap, you know what I mean? So we can see it's not the actual eyelet, because the actual eyelet are like holes created by this upper, and the laces are held in place by like a cable, and it's just one cable going throughout the entire side of the shoe here on the lateral and medial side of the shoe. So not a huge fan of the wire though. I mean, if you really crank down your laces, wires have been known to snap, so just be careful with that. But yeah, we do have the actual upper with these straps that give you a little bit better kind of like support and lockdown, which I don't think you really needed in the first place anyway, but there's that. And also obviously here on the lateral side, you have the crazy plastic piece going all the way up, and also it is supposed to be a little bit of a crown for, you know, LeBron James. So that's pretty cool. And also for the tongue, we do have a pretty nice leather material on top of the tongue, and we have his signature there. And also we do have a fine mesh material on the bottom of the tongue, but there is another material underneath that, so the airflow isn't that good. So overall, the ventilation is not great in the shoe, right? It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And then here in the back of the shoe, I guess LeBron just really likes this material, you know what I mean? Because we've been seeing this kind of like foam material since the LeBron 20, right? The 20 had it, 21, also the 22. So it's not like a super thick and very well padded kind of like ankle area. However, the actual foam is really soft. You know, it's soft, it's comfortable. It almost feels like more like a memory foam, you know what I mean? So that feels very soft and comfortable and pretty plush. So overall, I do like it. Also here on the medial side, we do have like a synthetic leather material with the LeBron James logo as well. So I'm not super mad at it. You know, again, I would have liked it to be a little bit softer. We'll have to see on how it breaks in. But yeah, I put this shoe on for the first time in a long time, and this material is terrible. This is so freaking stiff. Like, I really didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like, I was walking around in this and this at the same time, and the LeBron 11 is terrible. It's just so stiff. Way stiffer than LeBron 23, right? Because of the posit material. This is literally just a thick plastic, right? This is a jacquard. So because of this kind of like the actual inherent nature of the material, I feel like it'll get softer, you know. So there is the upper there. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to my Nike size, and it runs a little bit long, just a tiny bit, you know what I mean? Like I compared with the LeBron 23, and the LeBron 23 fits me perfectly, you know what I mean? I went the exact same size in the LeBron 22 and also with this shoe, and the 22 length is very nice, and the 23 is just a tiny bit longer, you know what I mean? So it's not super duper long, so I wouldn't suggest going down half a size from your Nike size. However, just keep in mind it'll be a little bit long, but it is really snug here in the toe box. And again, like with this material, I don't think it's gonna be stretching. It's just a really sturdy, very tanky material. So it is very stiff, and I can't curl my toes up at all. So it's a really snug fit here in the toe box. Also, with the actual like a texture on the drop-in, I can't really curl my toes up either because the lockdown is just so good too, right? So that feels nice. And also, as far as the width goes, I can put my pinky toe out just a tiny bit, so it's not like super narrow or super wide at all. It's just like a normal fit for me, which I do like, right? So overall, it does feel nice, and with how tight the toe box is, and also with how good the lockdown feels because of this texture, I don't really mind the extra length, right? So if you know what size you are with Nike, and you don't think you'll mind a little bit extra length, then you should be fine going true to your Nike size, because for me, it's a pretty nice size as well. So there is a fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown. Yeah, this shoe feels freaking supportive, you know what I mean? So for lateral containment, look at this, guys. Although the shell, like I thought this shell was gonna be really stiff because of this material, it's still kind of like able to bend. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's not a like super stiff and very thick material like the LeBron 11, which I do appreciate. Like with this positive material, I thought this was way too much, you know? But with the LeBron 23, this material is a little bit softer. I'm not a huge fan of how it creases, but we also do have this plastic material going up, acting as a sidewall here on the lateral side of the shoe. So yeah, here in the forefoot, here in the midfoot as well, that's pretty crazy. And then also here in the heel, and there is an internal TPU heel counter as well. So lateral containment is going to be good. And also another good thing about having a drop in midsole is they added a little bit of a sidewall. You know what I mean? Especially here in the heel. Look at how much it cups in. Look at that. You know what I mean? So that's really good. But also, like, I don't know why they made it so short though. I mean, usually they make it a little bit taller, but yeah, not a huge deal. You don't really need it, but it's still there a little bit. And also, again, with the texture, it feels sticky. It feels really glued down on the bottom of the shoe. So also with that, my foot's not moving inside of the shoe either too much. So a lateral containment, amazing. Also lateral stability, they actually added an outrigger. Look at this. You know, so that's pretty dang nice, and it feels laterally stable. And overall, the heel lockdown does feel a little iffy to me though. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like my heel is coming up and down like crazy, but it's moving up and down just a tiny bit because of how stiff the shoe feels. You know, it's a little bit stiffer than normal, especially with the upper as well. Not just the bottom of the shoe, like the sole of the shoe, but with the upper as well. You know what I mean? So because of that, there's a little bit of resistance. My heel wants to pop up out of the shoe just a tiny bit. So that kind of doesn't feel great, but I feel like once I plane it and break it in, it'll get softer, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's gonna be a huge deal. So yeah, I mean, obviously the support and lockdown with this shoe is really nice. And now moving on to the weight of the shoe, yeah, it doesn't feel light at all, you know, which kind of sucks, you know, because if you look at the LeBron 20, 21, 22, they try to keep the weight down a little bit, but this shoe does not, you know, especially even still, they're using Zoom X, and Zoom X is extremely lightweight, you know, so this shoe feels like it's like 14 ounces. Yeah, 14.4 ounces, guys. That's freaking heavy. So let's actually weigh the drop-in. I'm pretty curious. 3 ounces. That's kind of heavy. You drop-in midsoles are usually around 2 ounces, you know, 2.5 ounces. So 3 ounces, especially since this is Zoom X, that's kind of surprising, you know, but it's not fully Zoom X though. I mean, they are using a different foam for the outside of the drop-in. So with this blue foam, you know what I mean? And then the shell is like 10, 11? Yeah, 11.2 ounces, right? So yeah, 14 ounces, guys. That's freaking heavy, and this shoe feels heavy. It feels a little bit stiff. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but it reminds me a little bit of the LeBron 11, you know what I mean? But just way softer though, because again, the LeBron 11 upper was just so freaking stiff and uncomfortable. So it feels softer than that, but still it reminds me, like how it feels on foot kind of reminds me of the LeBron 11 in that it's a little bit stiffer, it's thicker, you know, and also the cushion feels kind of like somewhat similar, especially since it is a drop in midsole. But if the traction is good, you know what I mean, and also because the fit's nice for me, the lockdown support feels really nice, and I feel quick in this, then I wouldn't mind it too much. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is the weight there, but again, it's not the best shoe for guards if you are looking for a minimal, soft feeling shoe. You know what I mean? So there's that. Moving on to the aesthetics, I love it. It looks so nice. I love how they incorporated the crown design into the shoe. I love in this colorway how there is a reverse swoosh here in the heel as well, and there's kind of like this like jagged look to it as well, like kind of like a jewel, so yeah, I feel like it looks way better than LeBron 22, also better than 21. I don't know if it looks better than 20. The 20 looks really, really nice, but the 23 is definitely up there, you know what I mean? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, I'm a little bit indifferent, you know what I mean? There are definitely some things I don't like about the shoe, like for example, like the stiffness, you know what I mean? But again, it's not like super stiff, because I'm playing in the AE2, and the AE2 I would argue is a little bit stiffer feeling, and also hurting my foot a little bit more, So, and also this is a jacquard, AE2 has just plastic, so this jacquard might break in a little bit better. So yeah, it all depends on how the shoe breaks in, right? But for my first impressions right now, it feels pretty nice. Yeah, I really like the cushion. The traction feels overall pretty nice. I love how the shoe looks. Support and lockdown feels great, but it is heavy and it is stiff and also extremely supportive. So I feel like, if you're a bigger dude, it'll be way better for you guys, obviously, right? Especially if you don't mind like the heavier weight. But if you are a guard, we'll have to wait and see for the actual performance review in how this shoe actually breaks in, right? So anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the LeBron 23. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave in the feed link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.